Hi, how's it going? I'm Marlena. Thanks for wandering by. I have a guest here today. um, I am here out of practice on camera. I haven't been face forward in quite some time. We moved recently, and I am kind of experimenting with different places where I'd like to do my filming for my channel. But anyway, this is Hilo. Hilo, say hello. Hilo, say hello. This is Hilo. He's the super pup, we call him. Anyway, welcome to my channel. I'm Marlena. I'm a poet and a tarot reader, and I love to make content that revolves around the tarot and oracle, as well as creative writing, and my favorite thing is where those two intersect. You're just gonna look at the camera the whole time. You're pretty cute, you know. Anyway, today I'm super excited because I'm bringing you the round 2 of my tarot tag that I created back in July. I created, and you can tell from the title of this video, a tag called Tarot to the Extreme, where we took several different categories of extremes and we put our tarot decks in them and then paired them against each other to see how they would look. So I'm back because I had an overwhelming and lovely response to that first tag, where so many members of the TarotTube community did VRs on YouTube, as well as they took it to places like Instagram and things like that. I got a bunch of lovely comments and even some emails about that tag, so it was really fun. And I thought, because I'm constantly thinking in dualistic terms, it's just kind of how my brain works, and I like the idea of comparing and categorizing and organizing my decks and kind of seeing where they live in my life and in my practice. And I wanted to see if you guys were interested in some more Tarot to the Extreme. So I sent a poll to my lovely subscribers, and they overwhelmingly wanted some more Tarot to the Extreme. So we're back, and we're going to do round 2 of Tarot to the Extreme. So for those of you that haven't seen the first version of Tarot to the Extreme, I'm gonna link it in the cards, and you can check that out before you watch this one. What we're gonna do is I have several different categories of polar opposites, opposing ideas that I wanted to put my tarot decks under that category, and then see them individually, and then how they look side by side, and compare the two, and see what kind of like interesting pairing we could come up with. Now, you are more than welcome to use tarot or oracle. I'm personally just going to be using tarot. Feel free to do what you like. The categories are for, I've created them. So if they don't work for you, you can change them around. If you'd like to kind of reinterpret or redefine any particular category for how you see the tarot or how it works for you or whatever, you can be my guest with that too. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm happy to bring you another round. So without further ado, I'm gonna flip this camera around, and we're gonna go to Tarot to the Extreme round 2. So let's just go ahead and dive right into the categories. So just to tell you up front, we have 6 different categories for Tarot to the Extreme round 2, and some of them are going to require a little bit more explanation than others. This one, category number 1, is pretty straightforward. So we have category number 1 is modern versus vintage. And this is basically straight up based for me on the artwork and the feel of the deck itself. So let's start here with my most modern deck, which is the Way Home Tarot. Now, I could have chosen several different decks that I have. I tend to prefer, I think, modern over vintage or old-timey. Old-timey, you know, that's a technical term. Artwork. I'm not, you know, as I've said before, an art buff or anywhere near an art historian. But this is modernized. This is the tarot in a modern setting. It is, I'm not sure if these illustrations, I believe these illustrations are all digital, not hand-drawn. And there are only people in the form of silhouettes. But this deck, it's one of my favorites, the Way Home Tarot. It is an independently produced deck. As always, I will leave you links in the description box below. So it only has these people as silhouettes in the court cards. And it's a super clean, crisp feeling deck, you know, very modern. It's situated what feels like in our world of today. Really pretty. Some are tough. But a really pretty, you know, with these different glasses. There's wine glasses as well. I really love this deck. Alrighty. Just a couple more. Yeah, so that's definitely modern. It looks like a wedding table there, for sure, that you would see like in a magazine of today. So yeah, so that is the Way Home Tarot, a modern deck. And I have, for my vintage deck, the Guided Hand Tarot. Now, like I said, I'm not an art buff or historian. This deck, though, feels like it's crossing all different kinds of time periods. So perhaps the 40s, perhaps more Greek. I'm not sure what that is, but it's definitely a lot older artwork. Some of you may know exactly where the artwork is taken from. Some looks a little bit more like 50s and 60s, maybe like Americana. It is a really beautiful deck. This looks like, what is that, 40s, 30s, 20s maybe? I have no idea. I'm so bad at this. But this is a digital collage. I believe digital. I think. I'm not sure if it's hand cut. I believe it might be more digital. You know, I shouldn't talk, I say this, I should never talk about art. I really like this deck. I have not yet worked with it a bunch. I've been kind of saving it to work with it in maybe December, January. It feels like that type of time of year. But it certainly has an aged quality to it. I don't typically, although I like kind of like an antique-y, vintage style, like for my aesthetic in my home, I don't have a whole lot of vintage or I don't have a whole lot of decks that are curated art from like, you know, older time periods. But I love this Lover's card, but I have gotten some collage decks that have more of an older vintagey feel to it. I also, I also could have picked like my actual vintage decks that were, you know, published in the 70s, or 80s that, you know, are considered vintage. This is really, it feels, I don't know, I guess by vintage, I just mean like it feels old or antique or, you know, not of this time. But yeah, so that is the Guided Hand Tarot. Now let's take a look at what these two look like next to one another. Modern and vintage. Oh, I think they look really pretty next to one another. Something about the white and these colors. I love this Hermit card so much. Yeah, I could see actually pairing these two side by side. Ooh, that's interesting. The Nine of Wands and the Tower. Although they totally have a completely different opposite, polar opposite type of art style, they do feel compatible in a way, right? That's what I love about doing stuff like this. It just sort of gives you perspective. That's interesting. I love this card. All right, let's just look at a couple more. There is like colors that feel connected to one another here as well. Okay, last one. How cool is that? Okay, cool. So yeah, so that is the Way Home Tarot and the Guided Hand Tarot, my modern versus vintage deck. So next up we have a category that perhaps requires a little bit more explanation as to how we can look at it as pairing with our tarot decks. Although some of you may already engage in this type of practice with your tarot. So for this category, this is new moon versus full moon. And like I said, many of you may already pair your decks in such a way as to align with new moon and full moon readings. Now, there are varying different ideas about the energies surrounding the new moon time and the full moon time, and it also can depend on what sign the moon is in. I'm not an astrology expert. Really, my astrology is kind of limited to the tarot and its correspondences with the tarot. But in any case, all that kind of preface to say the dark moon or new moon time feels as though it is about digging in, digging within, perhaps like setting new goals, working towards something, the building towards the full moon. So that's the new moon time. And the full moon is a very highly energetic time where you've reached culmination, where you are in a state of completion. And because, these energies are so, they're opposite, but they're also like, together. they make the circle, right? They touch one another. The ideas wrap back around, as well as the cycle itself is wrapping back around. Anyway, all of that to say that the way that I look at pairing a deck with that time, with either of these time periods, is a little bit, they're kind of extreme, in terms of like introspection, going within versus like culmination and filling up, being full of energy, whereas here it's a little bit darker and, lighter and that kind of thing. So I also, around the time of the new moon and full moon, when I'm working with the tarot, I also like to really tap into the divine feminine energy and the goddesses. For the new moon, we have the Dark Goddess Tarot. So let's start there and then I'll talk about this one. So this is the mass market version of the Dark Goddess Tarot. I have trimmed and edged my copy. It was just way too unwieldy and huge. So this deck is one of my favorites. And it is a deck that I use during new moon readings. I particularly like how the guidebook is set up. So I know I've talked about this before and it's been mentioned many places whenever anyone talks about this deck, is that this guidebook is really, really wonderful. It has a really great synopsis of the mythology of each of these goddesses. This deck can be used as both an oracle as well as a tarot. I've used it primarily as a tarot. I have pulled one card, here and there just to kind of study and work with that goddess energy. But I really have used it as a tarot in my new moon readings. It feels very poised to put me in an introspective, reflective, kind of like checking in with what needs to be let go of, what needs to be released, what needs to be reset so I can start over. And the Dark Mother, the Dark Goddess energy that I receive is very helpful at that kind of time. With the new moon. It does also, like I said, depend on the sign. But yeah, this is a great deck for that. The artwork is really cool, and I just love this, in combination with its guidebook. And yeah, it's an absolutely stunning deck and great for the new moon. So let's take a look now at the deck that I feel like fits the full moon energy. This is the Elemental Goddess Tarot. And this is an indie deck that I discovered randomly on Etsy. And I just, for whatever reason, I totally connected with it. And it made sense to me. So this deck it's a little pippish. It has these, emerald green borders. It's kind of all over the place in terms of its artwork, in that it has these, it has photo, it has digital, it's digital collage art, I guess. It has illustrated things as well as photos. I don't know. I don't think that this deck is for everyone, but for whatever reason, I was really drawn to it and I really like it. It's funny because I was telling a friend of mine, like, this is a weird deck. I'm not sure why I'm drawn to it. And they laughed and said that, yeah, they've had that, experience too, where it's just a deck that feels like it's right for you, although other people might look at it and go, oh, I don't know about all that. But anyway, in its connection to the full moon, so it's fully, it's got depictions, especially in the majors, of different goddesses, but also goddess like energy without necessarily being a particular goddess. And the minors are really, pips, but they, it has a nod definitely to the Waite Smith depictions. And the court cards are people as well. And yeah, this deck is a little bit all over the place in terms of time period as well. It kind of, like, that's Gandalf, right? And a little bit of mythology and fantasy sort of element, but like, look here, we're like in a boardroom with this devil. I'm not so sure what's happening, but for whatever reason, this deck really feels like it's full. It's very bright and full of energy for me. It feels like that type of It feels like for me the type of energy that I would want to be tapping into in the full moon, during the full moon, that I've reached some sort of conclusion. This, I don't know, this very vibrant, bright, green goddess energy is what's coming through. And yeah, I don't know why. I can't explain beyond that why it feels like it's the right deck to be using for the full moon, except that it feels very whole, just like the full moon. I don't know if that's too like on the nose, but that's, yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I get. So let's take a look at these two together. I'm not sure that they'll pair well with one another. Let's see. That's interesting, but I'm not sure if like aesthetically they work with one another. Although I do like seeing the goddesses next to one another, or the, you know, that energy next to one another. Yeah, I do like that moon card. Look at those Great Danes. It's a weird deck. It really is. It's, you know, because it's got the photos, and then it doesn't know like what time period it wants to be in. It's kind of crossing culture, crossing mythologies, crossing all kinds of stuff. Like everything is in here. But maybe that's why, because it's like a lot. It's like all of the things. And that's what the full moon sort of feels like. In fact, the full moon sometimes is like a little bit too overwhelming for me. And I struggle to like, to work with the energy because it makes me really tired. Whereas the new moon is a time where I do feel like I'm ready to kind of like, okay, just shake things off and move on. And I do sort of like these paired with one another. Not aesthetically at all, but like I just kind of like looking at the or feeling what I'm feeling next to them. That makes sense? I hope that makes sense to you all. For me, it's just a hard thing to describe, that feeling that you get. New moon versus full moon practice, and see what kinds of decks feel like they, you know, they have that vibe, they have that energy, they have that quality about them. So this was the Dark Goddess Tarot and the Elemental Goddess Tarot. So next up, we have a category that really I don't think needs too much explanation. We have cute versus creepy. Cute on this side, creepy on this side. So funnily enough, I chose two animal decks, and let's get into it. Let's talk about them. So first, let's start here with the cute. This is the Tarot Fauna, and this is an indie deck. I know this deck appeared on my most adorable decks to Lisa, mostly because of these like ridiculously cute otters, which happen to be one of my favorite animals. This deck, all of the minor suits are renamed, and each minor suit has its own animal story that it follows. So like the rocks are the pentacles, and it is all depictions of these super cute bears. The majors are a different animal for each one. Torches are wands, and we follow the story of the foxes. And in the sword suit, we have renamed to feathers, and those are owls, another one of my absolute favorite animals. And then the shells are the cups, and they are all otters, and they are ridiculously cute. Like, this deck is just sweet and gentle and very loving, It is, you know, very storybook, with the animals behaving, you know, more like humans than animals. And they are just, you know, really sweet. And oh, it has a couple of cards that are extra cards in there. Yeah, I absolutely adore this deck. It's great. It's a great year-round deck, although I tend to use it late summer. That's when I've used it in the past. I also really love the Queen cards because they are the mama and the baby. So, oh yeah, like here, this is the Queen of Torches, the mama and her baby. Like I really just love that. Yeah, these otters are like the cutest thing ever. So yeah, like I could have picked, I had a couple other choices of cute decks to pick from, but this one just really kind of stood out. And in coming up with my, oh my gosh, that hermit is like ridiculous. Like bunnies are just too cute. So yeah, the Tarot Fauna, I cut myself off, didn't I? I was saying in coming up with my creepy deck, I really used this cute deck as a guide for it. Just kind of to see, I thought of like what I would think of on the other end of this deck. And as creepy, I came up with the wooden tarot. Now, for this category, I definitely have other decks that fall in the realm of what you would consider creepy. We're just wrapping up, you know, we just wrapped up October, you know, so spooky season month, and you know, all of the Halloween type or creepy spooky decks came out. This deck I did not use in October. I've used it. It's an animal deck to me, and it's super creepy with all the like third eyes and bones. This deck I know has appeared on when the tag Cabinet of Curiosities came out a couple months back. Oh, this one has otters too, or an otter. This deck was often shown in that curiosity because there's something just like really, like it's, you know, it's stunning and creepy at the same time. Like I absolutely love this artwork, but it is bizarre and it can be quite disturbing in some senses. See, like, look at this headless sun. I think that's a fox. So yeah, super creepy, super beautiful though, but real creepy. And it like, it gets you because at first it's like, oh, it's so pretty. And then it's like, wait, that's kind of creepy. So I think these two might actually look really neat next to one another. Let's take a look. Cute, creepy. Interesting. I actually think these look kind of beautiful next to one another, don't they? I mean, I think it being like animals and nature makes for a cool matchup here. I love that full card a lot. This is a very pretty pairing, I think. I'm quiet because I'm just looking at it. Oh, I love that. Whale as the high priestess. get on board with this. This match. Oh my God, those otters, like every single time. See, like, creepy, little creepy. Oh my gosh. Just a few more so we can see the vibe here. Cute. Creepy. Okay, so here we have the Tarot Fauna and the Wooden Tarot Cute versus Creepy deck. Okay, so now we have a category, again, that's pretty straightforward and easy to define and pretty literal. And this category is the tarot deck that lives on my table versus the tarot deck that lives in my bag. So on my table versus in my bag. And we'll talk about this little guy in a second, but let's start here with the tarot deck that lives on my table. This is the Anna Kay Tarot. This is a mass market version of the Anna Kay. I know that there's an indie version that's out there. I edged mine in black. The Anna Kay Tarot, you've seen it. Well, many of you have probably seen it. It's been around for quite a while. It's one of my favorites. It's a go-to. That's why it lives on my table. It lives on my desk, or it lives on my nightstand. It is always, it's an always grab, like Candy of Candy Soul and Soil did her tag of always grabs. This is an always grab, and that's why I like to have it near me in my, reading space at home all the time. This deck is full of really good friends, it feels like. It's an easy, clear reader that never fails to deliver a clear message for me. I use it in readings for myself. This is a go-to deck for readings for friends and family. I absolutely adore this deck. It is, it's just, it is one of my best buds. is that I've been saying that lately, but I do really feel like it is one of my very good friends because it's just like breathing. Do you guys know what I mean? So like, do you have those friends that you've had for so long that you don't have to worry when they're around about, like, entertaining them or taking care of them or being impressive or funny or this, that, or the other thing. Like, you don't have to put on in any kind of way for them. Just being around them is easy. It's easy like breathing. It's just like simple, and it's like breathing in and out. And that's what this deck is like for me. This deck is like as easy as breathing. I don't even, it's an automatic response. And that's why the Anna Kay Tarot is the deck that lives on my table. So let's take a look at the deck that is living in my bag and has been living in my bag since I got it. This is the To the Moon and Back Tarot. Came in this cute little organza bag, so that's how it lives in my bag. And I take this, it lives in my work bag, which is kind of like my purse. That's the bag that goes with me everywhere. This is a little baby, I like to call it a little baby. It's a little collage. I think it's a hand-cut collage deck. It's really whimsical. It's really sweet and cute and funny in lots of ways too. Super affordable, and I found it on Etsy. And I don't know, it just like made sense to me. I thought it was real cute, and it's also not, it's not just surface level cute. Like, this is a good deck. Like, it's thoughtful, but it makes me giggle a little bit, and I like to have it with me. It's got a freaking dinosaur in it. I live for decks will have random dinosaurs in them. So in any case, it lives in my bag. I love to use it on the go. So like, or at work, at, you know, like during my lunch break, or just whenever I need it. Like I often pull this deck out when I need, when I need something just real kind of succinct, and it just pops out. Even though there's plenty to look at here, oh my gosh, plenty to look at. It's, yeah, it feels like childlike, but not like a child created it, if that makes sense. So it's got lots of whimsy and playfulness to it, and childlike imagery, that, you know, like stuff that you would see in children's books or in a children's bedroom or things like that. Even like not just children, but like infant, baby kind of feels like. And it's, see, like, look at that. That looks like, that fully looks like a storybook or something from the 80s. Really feels like 80s to me. Anyway, I love this deck. Look how cute that is. Like, what is going on? I love this deck. It's just like an easy little kind of baby. I don't know why I keep calling it a baby, because it's a mini deck. But also, yeah, it just feels like someone that I want to have, I clearly personify my decks, okay? I'm just going to own that. If you've been here for a little while, you know that I do. It's just like, it's just the type of deck that I want to have with me, that I can just pop out, and it always, like, it brightens my spirits, but it also, you know, talks to me, and I like having it with me. I just like having the vibe of it with me. So let's take a look at these two decks together. We have on my table versus in my bag. Huh. These actually look kind of cool next to one another. I wasn't expecting them to match in any kind of a way as a pair, but they totally do. I actually I would probably, if I was using them in a spread, I would probably pull some more of the To the Moon and back cards around the Anna K. Let's pull a couple more, and then maybe I'll try that out and see what that looks like. I love this Chariot card from the To the Moon and back. It's so sweet. I love all these little random words that are cut out too on the To the Moon and back. Huh, this is very interesting together. Let's see what it looks like if I do, like I said, and I just do the Anna K, and then we pull some of the To the Moon cards around it. What do y'all think of that? That's interesting, huh? We're just getting all court cards. I think this is interesting. I think this is an interesting mashup here. One more, and then we'll move on. Hierophant, Eight of Swords, the Moon, and the Five of Swords. That's like a little Loch Ness monster there. Ooh, that's so cool. I really kind of like how this is teaming up here. So yeah, so we have the Anna K Tarot, which is the deck that lives on my table. It's my bud. And my little baby deck that is always in my bag, on my table, in my bag. Okay, and the next category is what I feel like pretty straightforward as well in terms of the idea. This category is realistic versus fanciful. So we have our most realistic deck versus the one that is the most transportive. This is really feels like this world, and this one feels like it's taking you to another world or dimension or something. Realm. So let's start out with my most realistic deck. Now I have a love of these photorealistic decks. This is probably at the top of those, and maybe this is the one that started my love affair with that type of imagery. This is the Tree Spirit Tarot, and it's available on Printer Studio, I believe, or Make Plain Cards, one of those. I'll put the link below. This deck is like absolutely one of my favorites. I've definitely talked about this deck before, and it is straight up photos of trees. all of the suits have been renamed, and the court cards have been renamed. It features the beautiful image of the tree, as well as the name of the tree, and then a keyword at the bottom. This deck is, it's by far one of my, it's got to be in my top, it's in my top 10, if not in my top 5 decks of all time. I love it so. It could have been in my always on my table, because it is always on my table as well. But it fit better in this realistic, because we're talking about realistic, photo realistic. It's a photo of a tree, and they're stunning. It seems so simple. And that's what I feel like about a lot of these realistic, these photo decks, is that it seems so simple, but they are so thoughtful. If they're done right, if it is, if it's done well, if it makes sense with the story of the tree, or the aspects of the tree, as a correspondent, or as this particular tarot card. Like, look at the High Priestess, this is the pomegranate. I could just go on and on and on about this deck because I love it so much. I adore this deck, and I have a real love for photorealism in my tarot. This is one of my favorites. Gotta love a palm tree. I do anyway. Gorgeous, stunning, and very thoughtful. So that's the Tree Spirit Tarot, my most realistic deck. And let's talk about my most fanciful. And I do have other decks that could have fit this category as well, but this one stood out as the top of the heap when it came to fanciful decks. This is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, and this deck has been around. It's a Llewellyn, and it's I've seen it all over. I have not worked with this deck a lot yet. I've been saving it. It's one of those that I've been saving. It feels like December, so it feels like Christmassy like for me, and Yule time. It is this completely enchanted forest world, right? It is 100% transportive. These are these are fantasy creatures. This is somewhere else entirely. This is a realm that I would like to visit. I can't wait to spend more time with it and to journey here. Look at these unicorns and the gnomes and dragon. Yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit even more than storybook to me. It really feels like a portal. This is not my world. It's so lovely. That's very storybook, but it's so lovely in terms of the imagination. I really like it. All right, let's take a look at these two. Realistic next to Fanciful. Huh. I wondered how these would look next to one another. That's so cool. Yeah, I don't think they're a match. I thought they might have been a match. Just because it felt like all this green and all this, like, there's a similar energy here, though, if that makes sense to you guys, like a similar magic. I guess it's because it's forest and trees. What do you guys think of these two side by side? They're very interesting, huh? Oh, maybe they do kind of meld in a way. Love that Hermit next to the 9 of Challenges. Interesting. The suits have been renamed here in the Forest of Enchantment Tarot as well, and many of the majors also. So these are decks that you would have to kind of investigate to make sure that, you know, you're understanding the renaming. Actually, I'm now kind of enjoying this as a pair. How are you feeling about it? Oh, look at this. I love this double card. Oh, that's pretty. That's interesting too. I'm kind of liking this now. Just aesthetically, but there's a feeling I'm getting here too. There's definitely a cool feeling that I'm getting here with these two decks side by side. This is the fun part for me, is taking a look at them side by side. So don't skip this step when you do this VR, because it's really the most fun part. One more, and then we'll move on. Ooh, I like that. Oh yeah, I'm lying. I'm gonna do one more. This is the last one, I promise. Okay. That's very cool. All right, so we have the Tree Spirit Tarot and the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, realistic versus fanciful. So the last category is maybe will require a little bit of explanation or your own interpretation of it as well. It's a little bit less straightforward than the ones prior. So this category is quiet versus loud. Now, this can work in different ways for different people depending on how you see the tarot and how you feel about your work with your tarot decks and or oracle if you're using oracle. But for me, my decks have voices. The artwork speaks in like particular ways to me, and when a deck is for me the right tool, the best way that I can explain it is by talking about the voice in which it speaks. So for me, this is about quiet voice quiet versus loud voice. So if it's like, you know, speaking softly to me, or if it's like shouting sometimes at me. Now you can interpret it that like the artwork as well. So you can say that the artwork is a little bit more quiet and dreamy versus like very loud and vibrant. So you could say that way as well, but for me, this is about voice. So let's move this one over. We'll talk about the loud one in a second and talk about the my quiet deck, which is the Dreaming Way Tarot. This deck really, it feels like a quiet, soft-spoken voice. The images are soft. The color palette is, I don't know, it feels soft to me. It's not gentle. I wouldn't say that it's a gentle deck because gentle and quiet are a little bit different for me. It seems like it's just, it doesn't need to like shout to get its message across. It's subtle. That's the word. So quiet, it's subtle, but very like evocative. So it like evokes emotion in a quiet way. It does, yeah, it does live up to it's appropriately titled as the Dreaming Way because it feels dreamlike. It feels like winter. So, and not that I live somewhere where it's like snowy, but it feels like snow on the ground quiet. That's how this deck reads to me. I often use it before bedtime when I've used it. I love all these black and white cups and the cup suit. It's beautiful. I love it. It's a go-to. It's, you know, definitely a Waite Smith inspired deck. And yeah, super quiet. It makes me get quiet as I'm talking about it, right? So that's the Dreaming Way Tarot. Now let's talk about the deck that I picked as a loud deck. And you can, you know, there were other decks that were contenders in this category for me. But really where I landed was with this particular deck. It is the Ellis deck. It's got those gold gilding. This is an indie deck. So I will, like I said, for everything, put links in the description below. This is not a deck I see a lot out there. I know that Lisa, my friend Lisa Pepez is the one who kind of introduced me to it, and she's got a great walkthrough of it. But this deck is, it is like, I mean, it's filled with imagery all the way through the card. It's got a loud voice. Like, it feels like you enter this world of these like fairy, fae, mermaid creatures, and they're just like, I don't know, it's not loud in a like a mean like nasty shouting kind of way. It's like a party kind of loud. Like there's a buzz in this deck. Does that make sense to you guys? It's like music loud. It's like a concert. It's like a party. It's like, I say a party and I get the 5 of Pentacles and the 10 of Rods. But anyway, it feels like jovial, but like in a loud kind of way. This feels like a loud deck. It feels like there's like noise happening in this world all the time, and it's got like background noise and foreground noise, and it's like it does shout a little bit. It's like it's like excited. It's, you know, triumphant. There's like, it's like music playing. That's a great one to really illustrate that. Like the sound of this deck. Like, look at all these cute little creatures inside the cups. Like, that's adorable. It's, yeah, I really, really like this deck a lot. It's, there's more than meets the eye in this deck. Like, there's like the surface level of it, and then there's just a lot of very intricate detail to get into as well. It's a cool deck. It's really pretty cool. And it's loud. Like, do you see that? Does that like just kind of, for me, it just kind of like, it's loud. It speaks very loudly. And on a like a on a like reading level, like when you're reading with it, it certainly doesn't, it just like speaks. It's not, and just because it's loud doesn't mean that it's clear, okay? It's just loud. It's like, ah, here I am sort of thing. It makes itself known very, very much so. So let's take a look. Quiet versus loud, and see what we think of these guys against one another. And if you can see, I don't know if these two polar opposites, these two extremes will want to speak to one another. They do, though. They feel like, friends that maybe like the shy friend and the outgoing friend, the introvert versus the extrovert. I feel like I'm just not showing you ones that, I'm showing you the ones that you've already seen. Hold on. What do we think here? Subtle, little in your face, quiet, loud, a night in, a party. This feels like, yeah, this feels like more like solitary, whereas this feels like more communal as well. What do you think about this kind of matchup? I don't know that I would use these two together like some of the other pairings that popped up throughout this exercise. I love that World card in the Dreaming Way. But yeah, it's not just about the vibrancy. Like there's a voice here. I can't deny it. I don't know. Those of you might not read that particular way and hear like the sounds in the cards, but maybe that's just like me, my poet self, that it's always like it's always a sensory experience. Everything always is for me. Just a few more. Wow, that's cool. The Three of Swords in the World. Yeah, like even like these, like the font and everything that we have going on in the Ellis deck. It's like, shh, it's like, shh, okay, shh, all right. I get it. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be so loud, I don't know, like with like kids, I'm always constantly, because I work with children, I was just like, shh, it's okay, guys, calm down. All right, one more, and then we'll end. Alrighty, so that was the Dreaming Way Tarot and the Ellis deck, quiet versus loud decks. All right, so there you have it. That was Tarot to the Extreme round 2. I hope that you all enjoyed that, and I hope that you all have a beautiful, wonderful day.